Welcome to the next part of my little series about Glitchmachines Modular Sound Processor Quadrant. Today it's all about delay and delay patches. But let me be fair and warn you right at the beginning, there are going to be a lot of explanations in this video, explanations which are meant to help you finding your own patches more easily. So, if you are simply looking for a fast collection of geeky sounds, don't waste your time and switch to another video. But now let's start with a pure sine wave of 500 Hz and a reduced length of the tone to a single ping. Like these submarine movies when these nerve-jangling pings are heard while the crew is waiting for the torpedo to hit the vessel. I sent this ping through a delay, set the delay time to maximum, what is 1 whole second, 1000 milliseconds, and try different feedback adjustments. Please notice how the amplitude of the repetitions decrease with different feedback adjustments. With feedback at 100%, for example, there isn't any decrease for a real long time, a fact that we are going to make use of a bit later. Well, not very exciting so far. Let me continue in my little phenomenology, therefore, and you will have noticed, by the way, that I bypassed the right stereo channel of the delay module. This channel, the green graph in the signal analyzer, carries only the signal sine, the original sine ping, sine wave ping, whereas the left channel, the blue one in the signal analyzer, carries only the delayed signal, the wet signal. I reduce the feedback to about 65% and try different delay times, letting the blue delayed signal walk in and out of the green unprocessed signal. I always have put in only a single ping so far. Let me change this. I start the sequencer in my DAW and let it produce a series of pings, increase the feedback to 100% again, and change the delay time while the series of pings keeps coming in. Now I insert an LFO in the patch and let it do all the work for me. The LFO modulates, changes the delay time. I lean back and watch and listen. A last experiment in this little phenomenology. I reduce the LFO's rate to about 0.16 Hz and lean back again. Watch what goes on. All right, time for some explanations now. Delay means, what a surprise, the output signal comes a bit later than the input signal. Ha ha, how interesting. Well, let me say the same thing using different words, and at once it gets more meaningful. Every single cycle of our sine wave comes a bit later out of the delay unit than it has entered it. A bit means up to 1 second here. And this time-delayed cycle is partly fed back to the input where it meets one of its successors, meaning the delayed cycle will hardly be in phase with the new cycles at the module's input. These two waves overlap, and the resulting wave looks something like that. Well, not the nicest drawing I've ever made, but you will get the principle. It could come to phase cancellation, meaning to complete silence from time to time, always when the positive maximum of the original wave would meet the negative maximum of the fed-back wave, if the amplitudes of both waves were the same, but they aren't, as we have seen. The amplitude of the fed-back wave, the blue one in my drawings and graphs, is always a bit lower than that of the original wave, the green one. But we can observe the weakening, the reducing of the overall amplitude if we set the delay time to half the length of one cycle. Our sine wave is 500 Hz, which is 500 times per second, which is 500 times per 1000 milliseconds. One cycle is 2 milliseconds long, therefore. To create one of these nearly cancel-out situations, the delay time needs to be half the cycle's length, what is 1 millisecond, therefore. Let's try it. I increase the length of the sine tone to make things better visible. And voila, it works. The blue wave's amplitude, what is the amplitude of the output of the delay module, decreases at a delay time of 1 millisecond. At some delay times, the amplitude increases, that is, when the positive and the negative peaks of both waves are synchronous. At some other delay times, we get something between the minimum and the maximum amplitude, depending on by what degrees the phases of these two waves, the output and the input, are shifted against each other. If we want to know by how many decibel the first fed-back wave's amplitude is decreased at certain amounts of feedback, we get at least a notion of this value by comparing the first and the second pulse at the output. The first one is simply the delayed original input wave. Please bear in mind that we cannot measure the feedback directly here with Quadrant. We always only measure the overall output, including the results of the feedback's devilish deeds. All right. Now for these strange effects that occur when I change the delay time while there is still sound coming in. What does it mean, changing the delay time while there is incoming sound that is still being processed? Well, it means I change the time which the wave's cycle needs to be completed while this cycle is still being built up. It's not completed yet, not finished yet, has not gone round to its end yet, call it as you like. Increasing the delay time live while the delayed sound is still being processed by the delay module means making the end of the cycle, the last dot, let me say the last dot on the completed curve, run after the increasing delay time and, by doing so, stretching the last part of the wave. Decreasing the delay time live means the opposite, means pushing this fictive last dot on the completed curve towards the curve's beginning, pushing the last dot of the completed curve backwards, making it jump on the bus before it had expected to do so, call it as you like, and by doing so, crushing the last part of the cycle, compressing the wave. I've increased the smooth parameter in the last two examples to make all changes going on slowlier and better visible, therefore. The clever clocks among you will have grasped it by now, but for us regular folks, I pronounce it here and now. We do phase distortion. Not really the way Casio did it in their ZZ synthesizers, which was a technique a bit similar to Yamaha's phase modulation, remember the famous DX7, but we are doing our special kind of phase distortion here with Quadrant's delay module. By the way, there is an in-depth series about FM and phase frequency modulation and phase modulation on this channel. You will find the link to it below in the description. But let me return to messing around with Quadrant and demonstrating this mess of theory in praxis now. I've set up a patch with two delay modules in series, each of which is modulated by an LFO of its own. To make the result even a bit nicer, I sent the main output to an external reverb unit, tweaking all three parameters, time, feed and smooth, of each delay, and as well as the rates of the two LFOs, can make a good deal of live performance. Well, back to more planful working. I want more control over the parameters, as well as generating a wider spectrum of sound. A weak point of all of my patches is, so far, that I don't have any control over the feedback path of the sound. Treating the part of the delay's output which is fed back into its input with filters or other kinds of sound processing units is not possible. I'm going to change that now. First of all, I use an internal source of sounds to start with, and because I want a wider spectrum of sounds, I choose the noise module to start my patch with. I want to use a mixture of white noise and pink noise, and I want to control the volume that I'm going to feed into the rest of my patch, I use a VCA module therefore. I'd like to have even more control over the sound, which is going to be fed in the delay unit. A filter after the VCA is the module of choice here. Now that I have sufficient control over the sound that is going to be processed by the future delay line or delay chain, I insert the delay unit now. I insert a second filter and a second VCA in the patch and lead the delay's output through both. I don't want a constant flowing signal input, no permanently sounding sound, but pulses of sound. I take an LFO, choose the square wave of the LFO and modulate the first VCA's gain with it. And now for my new feedback path. I disconnect the second VCA from the main audio output, feed the delay's output directly in the main audio output, and patch the second VCA's output back to the delay's input. And wow, I have what I wanted. More control over the feedback path. There is only a filter and the VCA, of course, in the path, but nothing could distract me from adding more modules in this feedback path by now. Let me mess around with the patch a bit. What we have patched now is called a Karplus-Strong patch, based on an algorithm invented by Alexander Strong in 1978. After teaming up with Kevin Karplus, these two developed a couple of implementations of this technique, mainly used to mimic string instruments. They published an article about their work in the Computer Music Journal in 1983, and there are really numerous implementations in hardware synthesizers since then. We could add more modules to the feedback path, a second filter to get a high-pass low-pass combination for fine-tuning the sound, or a granular delay, and so on. But I want to go another way from here and patch a delay chain consisting of 3 delay units in series. I use an external percussion sound instead of the internal noise. I could switch the delay times from milliseconds to DAW synchronized bars and vice versa to experiment with different and strange rhythms, or I could simply set up different rhythms by choosing different bar divisions, but that's not what I'm aiming for today. I want to mix some of our Karplus-Strong sounds to the drum pattern. First, I try using the delay in the middle for the plucked string sounds, but feed also the clean drum sound from the first delay into the third delay, additionally to what this last delay in the line gets from the delay in the middle. But this patch is not as flexible and useful as I want it to be, because the pluck sounds are too dominant, and reducing their volume means reducing the feedback of delay too. I patch a second delay line containing only one delay, parallel to the 3 delays in the upper row, and insert a mixer module to adjust the relative volume of both rows of delays. I can pick up the sound from any of the 3 upper delays and use it as the source for my pluck sound, of course. Or what about using each stereo channel of the lower delay for converting the sound from different of the upper delays? You will have got the principle by now, so go and set up your own complex network of delay modules. But I want to talk about one more and completely different kind of feedback using delays now. I use the FM oscillator module as my sound source, feed the simple sine tone into a delay unit, add a filter and feed the filter's output back to the FM oscillator module. Then I modulate the delay's time parameter using a sequencer, which is running at a quite low rate. Messing around with the oscillator's frequency and the cutoff parameter of the filter and with the other parameters as well shows the potential of this patch. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and to subscribe, and as I make my living from producing videos like this one, it's you who decides if and how fast this series concerning Quadrant will grow. I need your donation, and the more donations a series of mine generates, the more time I invest in this series and the less in others. You find a donate link below this video in the description. Thank you again and enjoy your day, Rolf.